Well, it gives me great pleasure. I'm really excited to introduce our keynote speaker today, Colan. Lee has authored 14 popular leadership books that have been translated to 10 different languages, including 2 bestsellers. He's a trusted advisor to America's leading companies, and his practical approach to leadership continues to inspire leaders globally, including yours truly. And I think as you listen to his presentation, you will understand how much impact he's had on me and on Longhorn. So let's give a very warm Longhorn welcome to Lee Colan.
Thank you for having me this morning. How you guys doing? All right, and we got to finish strong, guys. How you guys doing? Yeah, now we're talking. All right, good deal. I've been hearing a lot of talk about execution this morning and a little bit even last night, and I'd like to take some time this morning to convert the concept of execution into specific concrete actions you can take day in and day out. Because we talk about execution a lot, and it's great. We know, I call it kind of the easy button, like, okay, now what do I do about it, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, I wanted to say congratulations for finally getting into real state country, into Dallas, Texas. I'm from Dallas. So a few weeks ago, got to have dinner at store 504. Kyle, you out there? Kyle Souter, well done. This is my server, Wanda, did a great job. And I was really amazed, as was my wife, about just the level of training and insight that she had and the hosts had about the company, even the parent company, Darden. Very impressive. So thank you for the great opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to enjoy steak a little more frequently now in my own hometown. So I appreciate that. And Kyle, shout out to Wanda also when you get back to the office. She did a super job. So I wanted to share a quick story with you. Back in 1947, a guy named George de Mestral was hunting in the Swiss Alps, enjoying some time convening with nature. He was there with his hunting dog, kind of just walking along, just taking in cool, fresh air. He noticed his dog kind of starting to get a little bit antsy, and he's like, what's wrong with that? So he walks over there, and he says, as he's walking over there, he himself, his pants started to stick together, and he noticed these things in his pants. I call them kind of pricklers or cockaburls, and he looked at it. He noticed there were these little hooks and loops in them, and George was a pretty curious guy, so he took this little cockaburl back and studied under his microscope for 10 years. Sometimes they call him Curious George, right? And 10 years it took him to kind of figure out how to make this thing really sticky, market conditions, the machinery, the funding. Finally, 10 years later, he came out with what we know today is the stickiest man-made substance, right? You know that familiar sound of Velcro. If you're old enough like me, you remember David Letterman jumping up on the Velcro wall in his Velcro uniform, right? If you're not, you could YouTube it. All right. I like that story about George because not only was he creating something sticky, but he had to stick with it to be able to bring his dream to fruition. And when you think about the times that you had to stick with it, you were probably doing 3 things that are demonstrated in this adherence equation. We call it execution adherence. Your focus, your competence, your passion. Your focus is all about the what, your competence is about the why, about the how, and your passion is about the why. So it's the what, the how, and the why. Focus, not only important about what you're going to do, and you guys are great about your focus and keeping things simple, but just as importantly, what are we choosing not to do? We heard earlier some of the things we're going to stop doing from the marketing standpoint to simplify things, right? Competence is in the broadest sense of the word. It's not just your skills. It's your metrics, your language, your communication, your processes, your systems. Everything you need to do to get your job done well. And passion is about the why. And it's just not about, having, foosball tables in the back room or anything like that. This is about connections. Connections between your people, connections between something bigger, a sense of purpose, and connection to their sense of value. These are all in your sweet spot. You guys you're doing a great job of this. But this is really, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on each one of these components because this is really how we get to ultimately execution every day, right? Execution every day. We have to throw our shoulders, sharpen our focus, build our competence, ignite our passion. That's how we get to, we call adherence, and what you guys have been talking about executing every day, E2. It's much like an Indian thorny bamboo seed if you think about this journey toward adherence. This particular bamboo seed, once it is planted, takes 2 years of the right environmental conditions, 2 years to even break ground. Nothing's happening. Sunlight, rain, just a strong root structure being put through the ground, and nothing happens. But once it breaks ground, it can grow up to 100 feet in less than 2 weeks. You heard me, 100 feet in less than 2 weeks. I sound like one of those infomercials, don't I? And with that, you got a set of Ginsu knives, right? Well, I used to use this Google image for this slide up here to kind of show just a picture of bamboo. Until one of my readers said, hey, Lee, I've been to Asia. I've seen the Indian thorny bamboo, and there's a picture of it. I said, oh, that's pretty cool, so I thought I'd use that. He goes, well, the most interesting thing is, do you see my wife down there in the bottom right-hand corner? I don't know if you can see his wife down here in kind of the teal top. And more interesting, his wife is actually 7.5 feet tall. So really, no, I'm just joking. She's a regular height. But this is the journey of adherence or execution every day. Right? We've got to sharpen our focus, build our competence, ignite our passion day in and day out. And we might not see the results immediately. We live in this microwave world, right? We want instant results. I could barely wait for my popcorn to get out, right? But we've got to throw our shoulder into it day in and day out, knowing we're building a strong root structure, a strong culture, a strong sense of engagement and commitment and loyalty from our team that might not show visible results that day, but we have to have faith that we're doing that and we're going to reap the results of that just like you do here. And you guys have been doing a fabulous job of that, by the way. Let me just share something with you real quick. So, who am I right now? Thank you, it makes me feel really good. Batman, right? Well, not really, but I'm wearing a Batman mask, right? We know what makes Batman is not his mask, his cape, his cool car, and all that. What really makes Batman is his motivation, his ambition, his sense of justice. His parents were killed right in front of them, and he wants to bring justice to the world. That's really what makes Batman, not just his mask. And the fact is, well, as much as I'd like to continue wearing this, I'll take it off now. The fact is, what makes you is not your title, the fact that you park in a certain spot, the fact that whatever you have as a managing partner. What makes you the leader is your actions. People are following your actions, not your accessories. So when you think of your focus, your competence, your passion, if your team's focus is starting to wane and they're losing their edge, where's the first place you need to look? Right back here, right? People are following our actions, not our accessories. If your team's sense of passion or the culture feels like it's disintegrating in the restaurant, we need to look inside us. Leadership is an inside job. It starts with us. And that's where it gets right back to the power of you. We have the opportunity right in this room today for each of us to elevate our game just a little bit. We create this tremendously positive ripple effect out through our organization. So I want to spend a little bit of time now just talking about one practical thing we can do to sharpen our focus, build our competence, and ignite our passion. So my wife's great with family rituals. We've gone to the circus 23 years in a row. We actually outlived the circus. The circus doesn't come around anymore. But every August 5th, it would come through Dallas. We were at the circus. Our kids were good sports. My son's 20-something here, and he was still a good sport to put his red nose on. Always took the picture every year. What intrigued us about the circus, all of us, was so amazing was the lion tamer. You have these man-eating animals in there. This guy's in a cage locked in with them. We're locked out, fortunately. And he has 3 tools. Only 3 tools to be able to manage those lions. Right? He's got a whip, he's got a little extended stick with some tasty treats on the end, and he's got a stool. And what might you guess is the most important of those? Treats. I'm hearing treats. Yeah, tasty treats. If you have dogs, you're probably thinking, yeah, the tasty treats do the trick. I get that, right? Well, actually, it's a stool. The reason is, once that lion tamer puts that stool up, and it has 4 legs on it, the lions look at that and they can't focus. They're trying to figure out where to focus their attention. They've got 4 visual points of contact coming at them, and it keeps them at bay. And guess what? The same thing happens to us. If we kind of hold the stool up of all these different things that we're doing, our team is kind of like, okay, where do I focus? It puts us at bay. The more sharpening we can do with our focus, the more likely people can start moving and executing in that direction. So particularly at the MP level, we have to be really crystal clear with our focus. Make sure that we're not creating any kind of pausing or hesitation on our team, make sure we're clear. All right? So we have to figure out what's the most important things we're going to do, and I could tell by the presentations earlier that you guys are really great about using what I call the rule of three, just boiling things down. These are the three things that we're going to do. I would encourage you to think about that in the same way. One of the things you do is to leverage what I call the yellow car phenomenon. Now that I've made you aware of yellow cars, you're looking at the screen, you're going to drive home, or once you get your flight and go home tomorrow, tonight, you're going to be going to work the next day, and you're going to think, oh my gosh, that guy Lee had some connection with Detroit. There are yellow cars all over the road now, right? Well, this isn't any kind of woohoo science. This is based on our reticular activating system that says when we push things from our subconscious mind to our conscious mind, we see more of them. Okay? I experienced this firsthand many years ago when my wife was pregnant with our first of 3 children. We were going around Dallas kind of doing baby shopping. We weren't really baby shopping. We had that taken care of. We were baby clothing shopping and all that. Did that for a couple weeks. Then I went back into the office and I said, man, there must be something in the water in Dallas. Everybody's pregnant. What's the deal, right? Well, clearly nothing had changed, but I just had a heightened sense of the state of pregnancy. So you can use the same yellow car phenomena with your team if you're looking for more opportunities for repeat customers, right? More opportunities for cost savings. We just heard that talked about earlier, right? Talk about it. If you're focusing on something, talk about it, research it, engage people around it. You're going to start to see many more of them. You might say, gosh, we just did $1.8 million in savings last year as an organization. I did a bunch in my store. I've got nothing left. Talk about it. Keep talking about it. There are many more opportunities right in front of you that you're not even aware of. Engage your team around it. Research it. You've got a best practice group right here in the room of folks that have been doing some really creative things in their stores. So find that one thing that's really important to you for your store this year and focus on it. Talk about it. You're going to see a lot more opportunities and things coming your way regardless of what you focus on. Now, don't focus on 100 different things and go, gee, Lee, this is my list of 100. You told me I could use this yellow car phenomena. What are the 1 or 2 things you're focusing on? We can stay focused. Our team stays focused. We're in good shape. So let's talk a little bit about competence. Focus, now competence. Let's talk about keeping score. In our house, we have this kind of big open floor plan. And from the kitchen, you can see down to the family room and the game room. And over the holidays, we just like to play ping pong. We're not like a big bunch of ping pong nerds, but it's kind of a fun family sport. You can play it. It's easy enough. Anyone can play it. We have little tournaments and stuff. And if I'm in the kitchen kind of helping clean up or something, I can tell what's going on in the playroom. I could see by kind of the rhythm of the game. I don't have to just kind of generally even know what's going on. I could see people kind of like hitting it and the ball falls and they pick it up. I could just tell what's going on. I could tell they're warming up. But I'll tell you one thing. The second they start keeping score, smack, smack, boom, boom, boom. I can see the stances change. I can see eyes wide open. I can hear the rhythm of the game louder. People are on. They're at their best. They're sharpest because they're keeping score. And the same thing happens with your team. When you're keeping score and they know it, they're on. People want to win. I know you guys want to win, but we have to understand our people want to win just as bad. We just have to set up the environment and the metrics to do that. Now, I know if you're like most restaurateurs, you have a lot of metrics. But we tend to find organizations that have metrics that are very top-heavy. We want metrics at the frontline level that are relevant and influenceable. Do not use that word again. I just made it up, influenceable, but you know what I mean, right? So relevant to me doing my job as a server, as a host, as a bartender, as a cook, all right? And influenceable. Remember the old-time baseball games when the guy used to score a run, he'd actually climb up the ladder and put the new score up on the scoreboard? We want it to feel visceral, like I got this done. I'm influencing the scoreboard today with the stuff that I'm doing. So make sure that your scoreboards are relevant and influenceable for your team at the front lines to fully engage them and get them in a winning stance focused on what you want to do. I know you have your restaurant level scoreboards, but just make sure they're trickled down and they're visible to the team. It's not something you got to spit out of a report that you get every month. We want them in real time, influenceable, and visible and relevant. So at this point, let me ask you to take out this blank sheet of paper right here. Everyone has a blank sheet of paper? I'm going to just hold it up high. I want to demonstrate something around competence here. Just hold it up high if you've got a blank sheet of paper so I know everyone's got it. Okay, now put them down and hold up your hand if you don't have one, if you need one. All right, wow, we are good, thank you, I think. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, listen, we have a sharp team, experienced. This is going to be a no-brainer. I'm just going to give you 3 simple instructions. You guys are going to follow along, okay? So take your piece of paper. Are you ready? Step number 1, fold it in half. That's simple, all right? And then tear off the upper left-hand corner. Step number 2, fold it in half again. And again, tear off the upper left-hand corner. And step number 3, the last step, tear it in half one more time, a third time, and this time tear off the lower left-hand corner. Everyone hold up your paper. Let me see what you got. Go ahead, hold them up. Let me see. For everyone else to see. Hold them up high. I got a 2-hole. That's a nice mask. A 3-holer. Oh, bingo. You're ready for Mardi Gras, man. That's awesome. All right. How about that? Got a lot of 1-holers, 3-holers. Okay, you're close. Very good up here. How are we doing? 3-hole. Is it that your eyes are overachievers because of the 3-hole thing? I don't know what's going on. Nice Mardi Gras mask. That looks like something from a Stephen King movie. That's a little scary. Okay. All right. Well, all right. Wait. Are we embarrassed over here? Let me see. What happened over here? Let me see. Put him down. You should be embarrassed. Okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. Okay. So I'm a little disappointed that you didn't meet my expectations. But, oh well. What could I have done to help you better meet my expectations? Little clear instructions. Did we have any dialogue? No? Okay. Did I tell you what the end product needed to look like? No? Okay. Did I pause along the way? No? Okay. That's okay. It was all done intentionally, obviously, because here's the deal. If we depend on others' perceptions to meet our own expectations, we will be disappointed every time. If we depend on others' perceptions to meet our own expectations, we'll be disappointed every time. It would be really nice if our team could read our minds, maybe a little scary, but convenient, but that's not how it is. We have to be more specific than we think we need to be to make sure people are aligned and focused with us. We have to be more specific than we think we need to be. We call it front-end loading accountability. If I were to ask you about the term accountability, you might think about, a lot of people think about it on the back end. Well, do I reward or I punish people on the back end? But really, accountability is how we handle things on the front end. So the more specific we could be, 99% of the issues that we come across with clients are when we're coaching them, it's all stuff that could be handled on the front end. Right? So as a leader, I know you're busy and stuff, you're thinking, man, I'm just busy, I'm running. I'm just, instructions here, new things here, new policy here. And we're just dishing them out. But we have to be more specific than we think. And please understand me well, I'm not suggesting we micromanage anybody, but we probably need to be more specific than we need to be up front to front-end load accountability so people are clear on what we want them to do. Okay? So let me just share a little bit of this. Remember I said competence is about communication, it's about process, and communication is a highly imperfect science. Would you agree? All right. It's very easy to kind of just get our wires crossed. So a couple years ago, I was asked to speak. Let me share this with you first. This is more of a tie-in here that I'm going to share that story. So what I like to do is to, with expectations, any meeting I leave, any interaction I leave, I have what I call my 3W form. What, who, and when. All right, you guys, in this similar format, it's been presented up here in the last few presentations, which is terrific. All right. What, who, and when. I leave any meeting, I don't care about copious notes. I just care about specific actions that we need to take from that meeting. Who's going to do what by when. But more importantly, I try to carry on a mental template of these 3Ws in my mind. Because it's very easy. I'm just kind of walking through the hall or you're in your restaurant and you got something, a quick fix that someone's going to do. Okay, you're going to do this by then. I'm going to do that by then. Okay. So carry this around because many times, more times than not, and if I'm just walking past someone and I confirm my communication with the 3Ws, they're like, Lee, how did you get that, right? Human communication is highly imperfect. So think of the 3Ws and how you could leverage that just by either paraphrasing it, refining things, or using it as follow-up to your meetings. So there's the scenario I wanted to share with you is a couple years ago I was asked to speak at the Inc. Leadership Conference out in San Diego. So my wife said, "Hey, that's cool. Our son Cameron will go with you, and he can watch you speak, and then you can tool around San Diego." Oh, that sounds great. So I was out of town, so my wife tells my son Cameron, said, "Hey, Dad's going to speak at the Inc. Conference, and you're going to get to go with him, and then you can kind of tool around San Diego." He's like, "Okay, that's cool, but like, why is he speaking at the Inc. Conference?" And so my wife's like, well, you know, it's their businesses, and it kind of fits his audience, and it makes sense. And he's like, "Oh, okay. I didn't really get that." And my wife was a little confused because he understands our business well, and so she's starting to get confused, and he's getting confused, and they're kind of just going like this on a very simple communication till they finally realized that it all came clear that my son thought I was going to speak at the Inc. conference. Okay? Okay. All right. So, not that they couldn't benefit from this message, right? But the simplest of communications, all right, we can start going like this. So make sure we're keeping the 3 W's in mind to clarify. Don't assume anything in our stores, particularly when we're running a complex operation. Okay? So we talked a little bit about focus, competence. Let me spend a little bit of time on passion here. So you see, we call these the fundamental 4 up here. This is based on research of 50 years of employee attitude, employee survey, employee climate studies that have been aggregated. It's called a meta-analysis. It's an analysis of analyses. And it found the number one thing, the lowest scoring item of all 50 years of published employee attitude and culture surveys was lack of communication. Raise your hand if that's a surprise to anybody in here. I hope not. We all know that. That's always a challenge, right? Lack of communication. But what's more interesting to me is a factor analysis on those results showed that it really boils down to 4 questions, and that's why we call them the fundamental 4. It's where are we going, what are we doing to get there, how can I contribute, and what's in it for me. So as you're thinking about opportunities to make sure we're communicating with the team from Todd all the way on down, we see a lot of organizations that communicate a lot of stuff, but if you're not answering these questions, you're still going to leave people open with blanks in their mind. And our brain has a natural tendency to want to make sense out of the world. So if I'm not answering one of these questions, I'm going to fill in the blanks. And the problem is we fill in the blanks and it tends to turn into what we call the silent spiral. I'll tell you what that silent spiral looks like in a minute. Let me just share a quick story. So it's September 28th, 2001, 2 weeks after the 9/11 attacks. I'm taking my family to a family wedding in New York, just so happened. So it's us, a few people, and some U.S. Marshals on the plane. My son had never been to New York before. He was only 8. So on that morning of 9/11, of course, we were terrified like anybody. And once we realized what was going on, the kids were getting ready for school, we ushered my son off to another room. We didn't talk about it too much because we didn't want it to shake his sense of internal safety and security, because it certainly shook ours. Just so happens, on the descent to LaGuardia Airport, we hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, if you look out the left-hand side of the windows, you can see where the Twin Towers used to be." So I was like, oh gosh. So my son, being a typical curious 8-year-old, says, Dad, can I go over there? We're on the right-hand side, so I was like, sure. At this point, I was like, okay, go ahead, Cam, take a look. So he shimmies on over there, and he's looking down. He's like, oh my gosh, look at all the devastation. I can't believe it. He got his vocabulary from his mother, not me. He's like, I can't believe it. He goes, I've never thought it was such a mess. It's horrible. So this is going on for a few minutes, and I'm starting to get curious. So I myself start shimmying over there and said, Cameron, what are you looking at? He goes, Dad, look at that. I just never saw so much cement like that. I just didn't think it was that bad, all the 9/11 stuff. I was like, Cameron, that's Midtown Manhattan, right? So he didn't know the difference. He'd never been there before, so he thought the entire island of Manhattan was ground zero, right? Well, that happens when we fall into the silent spiral. The same thing will happen with your team. Silence leads to doubt, leads to fear, leads to panic, leads to worst case thinking, right? And it's not an assault on you personally, but it is a statement about your communication. If we're not filling in the gaps and answering these questions, our team will fill in those gaps for us. And generally, they fall into the silent spiral, and it ends up being a worse case than ever. So even if you're not sure about stuff, certain things legally we can't share, but other things, the more communicative we could be, the better. We talked to a lot of leaders about this, and many of them say, well, they just don't need to know about that, or they can't handle it, or I'm not sure they have any good ideas about that. And so we encourage them by saying, those who underestimate the intelligence of their team members are generally overestimating their own, okay? So you have great team members under you. Make sure that you're drawing from them. To encourage you to do that, we always talk about two types of organizational knowledge. There's dashboard knowledge that you guys deal with a lot for the store. Todd and his team deal with dashboard knowledge even at another level. But dashboard knowledge is you're looking at your car. I can see my speed limit. I can see how my oil is doing, my engine heat, my gas. I'm kind of managing to the dashboard. And that doesn't really change too drastically generally, right? And many of us should be leading at the dashboard. But many of us used to be under the hood. When you're under the hood, I see exactly what's going to happen in the dashboard. These are leading indicators of what's going to happen in the dashboard. I know when the fan belt's getting thin. I know when the spark plug is getting corroded. I know when the air filter's getting clogged up. I can tell you what's going to happen in your dashboard in the next 24 hours, 2, 3 weeks, 3 months down the road. But what happens sometimes as leaders, if we've been under the hood for a while, we tend to take that knowledge, take it with us to the dashboard and go, oh, I know what goes on under there. Well, the fact is, under the hood knowledge changes second by second, right? Dashboard knowledge changes much less frequently. So make sure, regardless of when you used to be under the hood, whether it was last week, last month, or 20 years ago, just make sure we're always tapping into people that are under the hood. They generally have firsthand information of what's going on with our guests, with our other team members, and all the interactions and the processes within. So tapping into them will help you, right, and ultimately kind of answer the fundamental four and keep out of that silent spiral, okay? So we talked a little bit about focus, a little bit about competence. Let's address the last component here, which is our passion, which is about connections, right? A team without passion, okay, is a team without purpose. A team without purpose is a team without passion. This study that I'm going to tell you about in a minute is from the Gallup organization. They found that the most successful work teams have at least a 3-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions. The same study found that for marriages, make a little personal note here in your notes, the ratio is 5-to-1. 5 positive interactions to every 1 negative interaction. So the most effective marriages have at least a 5-to-1 ratio. The most effective work groups have at least a 3-to-1 ratio. So think about that for your team. What's the ratio on your team? Just think about it for yourself. How could you kind of elevate that ratio? Because the bottom line is we do more for those who appreciate us. And demonstrating your appreciation for your team is a great way, maybe the best way, right, to create a positive interaction and, by the way, get their discretionary effort. That's our holy grail for leaders, isn't it? Getting my team willingly giving their time and energy to help achieve our goals. So what's the ratio for your team? So think about it this way. I've done a lot of research on this, and I've never found any research ever that has ever shown any employee of all time has ever felt overappreciated. Isn't that great news, right? So the sky's the limit. You can make your ratio 10-to-1, 20-to-1, as long as your appreciation is sincere and meaningful. Sincere and meaningful, and specific helps. Don't just get a quick pat on the back, right? But don't go back using it as a manipulative technique. But people do more for those who appreciate them. They feel appreciated. I know we can't have the kind of culture that we have here, deliver the kind of results you've been delivering for years if you didn't have an appreciative culture. I'm just encouraging you that you could probably even elevate your game a little bit more. If you would ask me, hey Lee, how much do you appreciate your wife, Julie? And I'd say, scale of 1 to 10, I'd say, it's an 11. Ask Julie, how much does Lee appreciate you? She'd say, well, Lee's pretty good, like 7 or an 8, like on Valentine's Day, he's a 10. Right? Why is it that gap there? And I will tell you, plenty of research would show that even if I spoke with your teams, we would have that same gap. No matter how good you are at it, there would be a gap of how much appreciation they perceive from you and how much you're appreciative of them. Well, that gap exists because I have all these thoughts of appreciation for my wife, Julie, but I don't consistently enough convert them into acts and words of appreciation. And I'm suggesting it might be the same for you too. So think about it. When you have a thought of appreciation for your team, do you consistently convert it into an act or words of appreciation? If you take one thing away from us today, if we're talking about execution, and I know this particular topic seems the furthest from execution, but I guarantee you, you elevate your game in terms of demonstrating your appreciation, remember, underline that word, demonstrating your appreciation for your team, you'll absolutely get more discretionary effort from them. You'll get more ideas for cost savings, you'll get more ideas for improvement, they'll be going the extra mile, they'll be thinking about work and things they have to do on the way to work. Demonstrate your appreciation for your team. A lot of good things come from that. So think about your ratio. So with that in mind, I'd like you to take the other blank sheet of paper out. Without digging into your purses or wallets, and I think there's a penny on your thing as a takeaway, please just honesty policy, don't look at the penny right now. Any blank sheet of paper will do. It could be in your notebook. It doesn't have to be the blank sheet that's on there. It could be your notebook. But can you please draw the head side of a U.S. penny for me without digging into your purse or wallets or looking at the penny that's in front of you? Just by memory, draw the head side of a penny, please. No worries, this won't go into Paula's personnel files for you or anything like that. It's okay. No grades for art. Okay, look at me when once you've given your best shot at drawing the head side of a penny. Just look so I know you're done. Don't stare, though. I get very insecure. Okay. Give it just another 10 seconds. All right. So tell me, just give me a quick raise of hand and yell it out loud. Give me a couple elements that are on the head side of a penny. Go ahead and yell it out. The date. Okay, that's one. It's good. I'm going to give you the answer in a minute. So the date, what else? Mint mark. Lincoln. In God we trust. E pluribus unum, I heard. What's that? Oh, it's the only coin where the president faces the opposite way. Oh, wow, this coin collector, are you? Impressive. Ah, good. That's good. What else is on there? What is it? The word liberty. Very good. What else? Do we have Longhorn Steakhouse on there yet? No, we're having legal affairs work on that one, see if we can work that out. Okay. All right. Here's the head side of a penny. So Abe is facing, well, left or right. I guess that's a matter of perspective. If you're Abe, I'm facing left or right. All right. You see what's on here, right? Liberty, in God we trust, the date, and the mint mark. That's it. It's pretty simple. Okay. Raise your hand, please, if you got every element correct. Raise it proudly. One right there. You got it. Well done. Anybody else? Another one. Impressive. Okay. A couple on the back, too. Wow, 3 people. That's actually good for a group of 500. I could do this for 10,000 people, and we might get 1 or 2 get it correct. So, well done. Here's why I ask you to do that exercise. Our research will show us, even with the lowering circulation of pennies, as of a few years ago, the average person, by the time they're 30 years old, touches a penny about 20,000 times. Now, let's be conservative and say, you know what? I haven't seen a penny in a while. I don't mess with pennies. Let's just say 10,000. Let's even be more conservative and say 5,000 times. So you can do the math. If you're 30 years old, say you've touched a penny 5,000 times. If you're a little older, you can do the math and figure out how many times you've touched it. But let's just say, on average, we've each interacted with something 5,000 times. So here's something we've interacted with 5,000 times, and 3, 4, maybe people were able to recreate it. So my challenge to you is, how many times do you actually see a team member or look at them but not really see them? How many times do you listen to them but not really hear them? And it's the same thing going on here. People just want our time. We're busy, we're doing stuff, but people want our most valuable asset, and it is our time. There was a cute little gift book I saw a while ago. It said, how does a child spell love? A child spells love Time. And guess what? Your team spells it the same way. So we live in this high-tech world, right? We've got all this stuff going on. I have so many people going through, hey, Lee, how you doing? They're chatting with me, and they're taking their phone out of their pocket, kind of peeking down. And I'm like, really? Like, do you think I don't see that? You're basically saying, like, if this is more important, I'm going to blow you off, right? So I know we're very connected in today's world. But we live in this high-tech world, but leadership is still a high-touch job. So if you can't speak to a person at the moment, say, listen, let's talk after the lunch rush. Let me give you another time because I want to be focused on you. But there's no badge of leadership that says, oh, I could juggle all this stuff and still kind of answer an employee's question. We're never going to get the real full engagement of their heart and mind, the full discretionary effort from them, and the level of execution we need without giving them that time. That's what people want from us. So I'm going to encourage you, just maybe write down now where you drew the penny. Is there a new penny on your team? A new team member that you just haven't had a chance to come up to and encourage or demonstrate your appreciation for them or your anticipation of the great things you're going to do? Write down the name of a new penny on your team that you could go back tomorrow and do that for. And is there an old penny on your team that has nothing to do with age? Maybe someone that's been around for a while. They're kind of your steady Eddie. They're maybe never going to set the world on fire, but you can always depend on them. Have you told them that you really appreciate the fact that they're really reliable and predictable and not taking that for granted? So think of an old penny on a new penny on your team that you can do that for. And there is a penny on the table for you to take away as a reminder for you. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about sharpening our focus, building our competence, and igniting our passion. Let's talk about habits and kind of the journey of change a little bit. If you think about a lunar voyage, does anybody know? We got some smart people in the audience, by the way, with this penny thing. So anybody know how long a lunar voyage is to up and back? How many miles? Anyone have like a fifth grader in science now they had to study with? Okay. 497,000 miles, almost 500,000 miles. And in that 500,000 mile journey, 95% of that energy is taken up right up front, trying to get that big hunk of metal off the landing pad, and then pushing through the Earth's atmosphere. And it's smooth sailing. I felt like Kramer on Seinfeld there, you know. And then it's smooth sailing. And that's what the journey of creating a new habit is like. Up front, we have all this kind of gravitational pull from our old habits, right, pulling us back until we kind of push through. What's the old saying? First we form our habits, then our habits form us, right? Let's demonstrate that real quickly, if you don't mind. Can everybody stand up real quickly? Just stand up quickly. All right, look at me. Put your arms down. Just relax. All right, everybody just fold your arms. Real easy. Fold your arms. All right, pretty sharp group. We got that down. Anybody have to think about that? Yeah, it's easy, right? Okay. Go ahead and put your arms down, please. Okay. Now fold your arms the opposite way. A couple of you still working on it, right? Yeah, I see. It's awkward, I know. What's that feel like? Kind of awkward? You had to think about it? All right. Now go ahead and put your arms down. Now fold your arms. I just said fold your arms. How'd you fold them, right? They're all the way, right? It's a habit, simple. Now we could sit here and research will tell us for the next 28 days and practice this and turn this into a new habit. I'm just guessing that wouldn't be a good use of our time, right? It was kind of funny. I did this at a group a while back, and it was a very outside-of-the-box woman in the front of the row, and I said, fold your arms the opposite way, and she went like this. I was like, good for you. I was like, that's outside the box. All right, have a seat. Have a seat. Thank you. So let's turn this into kind of real life, something you could connect with. I forget who I was talking to earlier at the back of the room. No, it wasn't Kyle. It was somebody else. I'm sorry. I apologize. But his child, son or daughter, I forget, was just learned how to drive. And you might be able to remember this. Here's what it looks like when you're learning a new habit. All right, honey, hop in the car. This is what it's like with my daughter, at least. Okay, Dad, hop in. Okay, hands on the wheel, 10 and 2. Okay, foot on the brake. Okay, go ahead and turn it. Okay, turn it on. Good. Okay, we're going to look back now. Check your mirrors. Okay, reverse. Okay, reverse. Looking back. My daughter, the first time she started driving, for some reason, when she reversed, she would look forward. I was like, that ain't helping you, honey. Okay, so looking back, okay, now put it in drive. Okay, let's go down the street here. Watch the mail. Watch that mailbox. Okay, okay. Turn. We're gonna turn here. Turn. Okay. Watch that curb. Okay, well, let's turn back around. Going around, doing all right. Coming back home, pulling in the driveway. All right, pull in, honey. Put on the brake. Ooh, put on the brake. Okay, good. Put it in park. Okay, turn it off. Everyone breathes a big sigh of relief, right? So it's very intentional, conscious behavior anytime you're changing something. Now, fast forward to the last time you drove home after a long day at work and you pulled into your driveway and thought to yourself, oh my gosh, how did I even get here? Right? Right? That's the power of creating a habit, for better or for worse. But we have to go through that first phase where we're pushing through that gravitational pull of our old habits before we can get to that point where we don't have to think about it anymore. So I know there's always lots of new things going on in your operation and for you as a leader, but I want to just talk to you as a leader now, as a person, not about your operation. All change and growth generally occurs when we're a little bit uncomfortable. We have to look at ourselves, maybe do some self-assessments, and then realize I have to change something about my behavior. Maybe just something small. Maybe it's something you might take it away today. The company was generous enough, you have a copy of a book to be able to read. There might be some practical tips in there. But no matter how many things you find, I'm going to encourage you, find one thing to change your behavior around, and focus on that and get it into that habit mode after a month or so of continuous use. Then and only then, layer on another change in your behavior. Don't go in there and get excited. I'm going to change all this stuff. It could be one little thing. I'm going to start using these fundamental 4 questions, right, when I communicate with my team. Any little thing. I'm going to start making sure we have a really good visible scoreboard. One thing. Then and only then move on to something else. We create this tremendous power, this powerful effect. If you think about each of us in the room, let's talk about the power of you, each one of you here. We each take one thing away. I'm not talking about the business strategy, and just one thing you could do to elevate your leadership. We have a lot of great leaders here, and the single thing that identifies a great leader always, in the last 30 years I've been doing this, is that they never feel like they've arrived. No matter what position they're in, no matter how experienced they are, they're always willing to learn and change and seek feedback and continue to tweak their approach. So I'm going to encourage you, if we have 600 plus people in here, if we have everybody changes one little thing, elevates their game just a little bit, almost indiscernible for you as a leader, but we create this tremendously positive ripple effect into our restaurants, into our team members, into our guests, into the community, ultimately for the shareholders, right? That's a big deal. I was reading this little gift book that was cute. You may have seen it, called 212 Degrees. And the premise of the book is that at 211 degrees, water is just hot water. Nothing too exciting about it. But at 212 degrees, just 1 degree difference, it turns into boiling water. And with boiling water, you get steam. With steam, you can power a locomotive. Okay? And that's what we want. We want to take just one little effort for each of us here, right? One little way to elevate our game, to execute a little better, but start with yourself, not with your team. I know we've been talking about team execution. If I elevate my leadership, the way I communicate, the way I execute day in and day out, that will have the kind of ripple effect we need out through our teams. Right. One little thing, each of us, creating a tremendous wave of positive momentum that we want to start building for Longhorn. So if we do that, we stick with your plan, we will absolutely win in the marketplace. Thanks for your time, folks. Appreciate it.